Hi everyone, just checking to see firstly if we've got all the technical things right and you can hear me. So just if you're coming on any time now, then just let me know before I start. And yeah, so people are coming on now. Can you let me know if you can hear me? Just so that we have everything in place. We'll wait for your messages there, but we are going to be talking about fear in your DNA, and I haven't done a Facebook Live for a very long time, but this felt like a very important topic to go into because I feel that many of us are experiencing our deep and buried down shadow selves, and I wanted to address that. So Paul, thank you for joining, and Pam, thank you for letting me know that you can hear me. Okay, great. Okay, so we can get started then. So yes, fear and your DNA. Why are they connected, and how are they connected? And what does it even have to do with anything? Because ultimately, really, how does that impact something physical like your DNA? So let's just backtrack for people just a little bit. And in case you're not aware of what epigenetics is, and epigenetics is really about how everything around our DNA influences the DNA, the way that it is expressed. So think of it like Christmas lights, okay? And you've got all the different colors, and you can choose, depending on how you press the switch, which lights come on, which lights come off. And as a result, you're controlling the way the lights show up. So it could be blue, yellow, green. It could be, you know, any other choice that you have. Now, the switch there is things like fear, things like our beliefs, things like our emotions, our perceptions of life. And that is something that we don't run away from, but we actually be present to. And I'm going to talk a lot about that, and I'm going to show you why and how. Hi, Helge. Hi, Sunita. Thanks for joining. So that's basically how we are able to change the way that our DNA is expressed. That is so powerful, right? That's epigenetics. This is where you are in control of what shows up. Now, let me take it a little bit further, and that when we go into beyond the mindset of wanting to clear something, so we're not going to look at, oh, we've got all these beliefs and we've got all this, which, by the way, also are inherited. So they come from your parents, your grandparents, and if they've experienced trauma, famine, Holocaust, genocide, just go back in history and look, and you'll see that there's so many of those kind of traumas that have happened, and they can result in you inheriting those energies. And many studies have shown this, how that comes through. And as a result, it can impact you in so many different ways, and ways that we don't even know. A lot of things I say to my clients is, they'll come to me and say, I've tried so hard to move past such and such thing, like say for instance, self-confidence, or I'm trying to get my self-confidence. I just don't know why I can't get that. I just am faced with all this fear, and I'm trying not to look at this fear and look in the mirror and say, I love myself, I'm this, I'm that, that. But I'm here to tell you, and that maybe works for some other people, but I'm here to tell you that that is a way of a fear, because you're afraid to look at what is really going on in your energy. Because if you have something that's not making you feel good, instead of pushing that away, if we look at it and experience it, that changes everything. Because then you're not, it's like facing the monster, really. And then you find out that the monster isn't really a monster, it's just a toy or something like that. Okay, that's a crude example, but you know, it gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. So this is what we really want to look at what is going on. So I want to do some doodling, and I'm hoping that this Facebook Live is about from 30 to 40 minutes long. And I know time flies really fast when I'm doing these things, and I get a lot of questions, and feel free to ask questions, which I will address. And I'm gonna start doodling and explain, go into explanation. And if you know me, you know I love doodling. I finally got the technology. I had to mute that. I finally got the technology working. Let's do that. There we go. Okay. So I finally got the technology working to get this this going. So if you know, I've been trying to do this for a while, trying to get the technology to work so that I could have both screens like this. Okay, so here is someone who's stressed. Now let me also reiterate here that there's very low-level kinds of stress that we've got used to and we live with. And also things like, say for instance, I don't know, you have something say for instance, you have something to clear out, okay, from your cupboard. And it's every time you open it, you see it and it stresses you out and you don't want to look at it. So you keep that cupboard shut. And you don't open it, you don't look at it, but in the back of your mind, there's this stress that, oh my God, that cupboard is like full of stuff and junk and I need to clear it up. But in a way, you're kind of going, I'm not looking at it, I'm not looking at it, but that doesn't do you any favors. And that is what I'm talking about, underlying stress, where there's things in our life, it's not, you know, we have apparent stress, like is something traumatic happening to you, and that brings fear, but there's also other underlying things like that, for example, and I'm sure you have many examples of that. Okay, says, me and my friends joke about ancestral rage passed on through the blood, but I suppose there is truth. Yes, it is. There is truth to that. There really is truth to that. So anyway, so here's the individual with stress, underlying stress, or, you know, that. So what does it do? Like, what does it do to us? I wanted to talk about something which is called, how do we do this without you getting my hand in the way? I'm left-handed, so. Okay, so you call it the HPA axis. Okay, so what is that? Let's draw a little, let's change that. Let's draw a little guy here. Okay, now this little guy has let's pick another color. Okay, so he's got this gland in his brain. It's called the hypothalamus. Okay, now the hypothalamus, let me draw the other ones and then we'll come back to what all these do. We've got the hypothalamus, and then right there we've got the pituitary as well. Just imagine it's just close to it. Okay, so let's just put that here. It's pituitary. And this one's the hypothalamus. I'm liking this today because I've got the technology to work and you can see me and my drawings at the same time, so I'm pleased. Okay, so we've got those, and then we've got the adrenals. We all know where the adrenals are, I'm assuming, and if you don't, they're here, right here. So above the kidneys, just there, they are called the adrenals. Now, this is what fear does, okay? So this underlying fear that you have of stuff in the cupboard, and using that analogy for anything else that you've got in your life. What happens is that the hypothalamus is the first place that your body picks up stuff. So it's the first gland in the blood that contacts the blood, and it picks up signals as to say whether you're stressed or not. So whether you have underlying fear or not, it's picking it up, whichever fear it is, okay? And that gets passed on to the pituitary to tell the pituitary what kind of hormones need to be, produced. And so that then goes to the adrenals, and the adrenals then produce adrenaline and cortisol. Now, there's a really good reason for having this system, and that is that, if, for instance, you have, Bruce Lipton always talks about this example, that, if you have a tiger in front of you or a lion in front of you, and then you have a bacterial infection, which one is your body going to look after? And that is that first thing is to actually run away from the lion. And the reason, you're not going to be interested in actually taking care of the infection. And the reason for that is because the adrenals then produce cortisol and adrenaline that allows you to run. Okay. And, what it does is it takes the, let's draw this. So we've got the heart, and what it does is it allows the blood to go to the extremities, okay, so that you can then run. So if we have underlying fear, and that is always there, guess what? This system is always going to be on the go, okay? This system is always going to be on the go. And as a result, this is going to impact your DNA. So the initial example that I gave you of the Christmas lights and how you have the DNA and how, you have a switch for the Christmas lights to choose which lights come on and off. Guess what? In the same way, let's move this across a little bit. In the same way, you've got the DNA and the double helix, excuse me, and the DNA it's responding, okay, to, let's get another color here. So this whole HPA axis, the DNA is responding to. Okay, so hi Pauline, good to have you here. We see chronic habitual stress is bad for the health long term. Absolutely, and you're right, that's exactly what we're talking about, chronic habitual stress, and this is where we get adrenal fatigue, this is where we get chronic inflammation in the body, and all of this happens as a result of that. So this is where, the underlying fear, as we said, since that's the title of this talk, is that's what's happening. So the HPA axis impacts the DNA in such a way to then impact what switches go on. So, you can have different colors. The way think of it like an alphabet, and you can make different words from it. And in the same way, you can make different proteins from the DNA with the different colors. And so if this is on all the time, you are going to be producing proteins that respond to that. That is going to result in, guess what? We just said that. Think of an arm here and a hand, and there is a big bump here which is inflamed. So just imagine that's inflammation in the body itself, and it can be anything, and it's then always there. So what happens then when we have this underlying inflammation is that the body is not able to heal, and the buttons that allow for the DNA to be expressed in a way that you can come to a place of healing isn't there. So who would like to know what to do about this? And any questions? So wait for your questions, and then we're going to go on to what we do about it. And by the way, for all of you listening, towards the end, I have, so stay on, I have something I want to offer you, and I'm excited about that. So I will tell you what that is at the end. So any questions so far? So we have the HPA axis. It's impacting your whole system. These glands resulting in the way that you produce inflammation, underlying fear, which we have. All of that can influence how the buttons on the DNA are pressed, and that can change the way that the DNA is expressed, resulting in inflammation. Or we can turn this around, and we can turn this around. So this is where we're going to go next. Now, I don't see any questions yet. So how do we turn it around? I love talking about this, because you know why? Because I know it works, and it's quite magnificent how we are able to do this. So the first thing is to let's go over here. The first thing is to, I'm trying to get this all in one go, but I can't, is to, to acknowledge. Acknowledge the fear. That's the first thing we have to do. Number one. And I know we say that a lot, but what does it mean to acknowledge? What it means, and any of you feeling this right now, just pick something that you have in your life that you are experiencing and you have a fear about. Okay? Let's see what this do. There we go. Okay, so acknowledge whatever it is, and we're going to go through this together. Okay? Acknowledge what it is, and then number two, this is a big one. Oopsies. Number 2 is be present. Yeah, that one. Be present. And what you're saying, you see us saying is stop the stress, use frequency in your work as an antidote. I think I understand what you're saying. If you want to clarify that. And then the next thing, one of the things that's so what we do, which then adds to this whole thing. So we've already got this system going, right? We've got this fear going, and then we've got this system going on hyperactive mode, and then that's impacting the DNA, causing inflammation. And then we say, okay, I'm going to acknowledge it, but then, and then you become present to it. But then what comes in is judgment, right? I'm sure I'm the only one ever experienced judgment. Am I right? Of oneself. So there's judgment. And judgment adds to the frequency of this. So it's like, so there we go. It's just continuously adding to that. And then we want to be able to say, just don't judge yourself on anything. Whatever you're experiencing, don't judge it. Be present to it. And then number 3, let's go back to black. Number 3, there's the number 3 and I've forgotten what it is. I think I've already covered it. That was no judgment was number 3. Okay, so that is not judging it. And that's it. And what happens is that we have inside us, imagine the sun, okay? And it's radiating a beautiful energy. We all know what it's like, right? You know, when you go to the beach and you're just enjoying the sunshine, how beautiful that feels. Well, guess what? You have that inside of you. This is your essence. This is the power that courses through every cell in your body. And the only way to access that is by these steps. And as you access that, you are then able to shift the way that the DNA is expressed. Okay? So you are able to then influence the way the DNA is expressed and the different proteins that are produced, and that is what then reduces the inflammation. That is what then helps you get in touch with that innate wisdom, innate health. So let's put that in. Innate wisdom, health, well-being. All these are inside you. They're not anywhere else. And as a result of doing these 3 steps, you are in touch with all of that. And so what happens is that, you know, when you do have a cut or something like that on your hand, or Do you think about how it's going to heal? No, not really. It just happens. And this is it. This is how you can access that. And then the DNA aligns to that. Because one of the things I did say is that the DNA is expressed, each DNA, the genes is just a set of, say, alphabets that make up a word, okay? And if you think of the alphabet, you can make different words. And so what that means is that each gene can be expressed 30,000 different ways. 30,000! I'm just going to draw an exclamation mark. 30,000. 30,000 different ways. And all because when you do these 3 steps and get in touch with that, that influences that and allows for health and well-being to come back to you. So really good questions just come in, and that's, can you explain a little bit about being more present? Being present, yes, definitely. Great question. Thank you. Okay, so how to be present. This is how you be present. Can you right now feel? I'm going to put this up here. So Sunita's asking this. So can you right now feel, say you're sitting on a chair. I'm sitting on a chair. Can you feel that? Can you feel the air around your skin? Can you feel the air going through your nose? That's number 1. So yes, if anybody says you can't feel anything, then you can feel those things, right? So then the next question is, what is it that we're going to feel? If we're experiencing fear, what are we going to feel? The first thing to do is not to judge the fear, which we've talked about, and then to go into the body. The body is your antenna, if you want to call it, to your DNA. Okay? And as you begin to drop into your body and feel where you feel that fear, but stop calling it fear, but instead move into, this is another, actually that becomes number 4 on this. I keep forgetting what I was going to say. So you have no judgment, and you are then feeling, that's it, sensations. So you're feeling the sensations in the body. So what are sensations? Well, sensations can be a coolness, it can be heat, it can be throbbing, it can be waves moving through you. So as soon as you feel the fear, go into feeling where you feel it. As you feel it, then become aware of what it is. Is it a throbbing? Is it, what does it feel like? So Sunita, that's the answer to your question, is that. That is how you become present. Yes, so you said sweaty palms, shaking. Yes, those are all sensations. So that's you being present to you without judging yourself. And the more you can stay in that space, you are then accessing this. And what happens is you'll find that those sensations begin to move in your body. and you might notice that they go somewhere else. And you're not doing this to move it, because if you were, then you're judging it. And you're just being present. And as you're being present, this wisdom, this health, this well-being comes through you and helps you move through that. And so what happens is that the fear shifts. And you can then begin to notice that that will shift within you, and it will be reflected back at you from the outside as well, because ultimately everything is you. And Deepak Chopra has a book called You Are the Universe. And, you know, check that out. But the whole point here, and that's a different conversation for another Facebook Live, as to why you are the universe, and this is it, you know, this is it. Really. It really is. So, any questions? And then I'm going to tell you about my my little gift I have for all of you. Really, I managed to sort this, but sort this this scale thing out. Yes. Okay. So any questions? Anything regarding anything that I've said? So let me just recap while I'm waiting for the questions. So we have fear, and the fear can impact the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals, all of that. And that then influences how the DNA is expressed, meaning resulting in inflammation in the body. So how do we get out of that? How do we move through that? First, we acknowledge the fear. We be present to it. We don't judge it. And we move into the sensations in the body. We feel. Big word. Feel. Okay? So as we feel, we move into this innate wisdom, this health, this well-being, that then influences how the DNA is expressed, because the DNA is expressed and can be expressed 30,000 different ways. So you have influence over the way that the DNA is expressed, and not with what you're born with. Okay, I didn't mention that yet. So if you feel that you have a condition that may present itself as a result because your parents have it or somebody else in your family has it, you have choice. You really do. And you can do this by doing this. And this slide has everything. And I know we're talking about fear, but this has to do with everything. And when we talk about fear, and we're talking about underlying fear, if you imagine that your ancestors went through a huge trauma, let's say the Holocaust, okay? And the Holocaust, you can imagine the fear that was experienced at that time. That fear, the energy of that, is transferred to the descendants. Yeah. So if you are experiencing anything in your life, like a phobia or, anxiety, it may not be as a result of what is, and I've seen this countless of times with clients, that it's as a result of what your ancestors experienced. And it just got passed down to you. And so when we don't work on the actual, the diagnosis, I don't do that. But what I do work on is the energy behind it. So we're looking at what is influencing this, and that results in this and this. And, the inflammation, you can think about it, in this case, fear, phobia, it's like an inflamed response, isn't it? So anything and everything can have its influence from your ancestors and things that they've experienced. And I cannot tell you the countless amount of times that I've seen this. And when it's released, it's just a completely different ballgame, because you've moved away from this fear, which was in your energy field surrounding your DNA, which wasn't even yours, right? So that's okay. So a couple of questions. Adi, is fear the only? Let's put this up here. Is fear the only cause for inflammation? Good question. So let's backtrack a little bit here. Fear is something we call something we're feeling, right? And it doesn't have to be the only cause, because you could be feeling other things like grief. You could be feeling sadness, anger. All those can also be causing inflammation. Okay? I hope that answers your question. And Paul. Okay. So sensations, are they emotions? No. Because you're feeling the fear, and the fear comes with an emotion of, I don't know, it could be anything, right? Sadness, grief, whatever. But you're going beyond that into the body, and you're feeling that. So just like you're sitting on a chair, if you touch your face, you feel the sensation of that. That sensation is also inside your body. That is not called anything. It can be called throbbing, it can be called waves, it can be called different things, but it's not an emotion. Because the minute we call it an emotion, we're kind of judging it and then not able to access the innate wisdom. Okay? I hope that's clear for you too. So wonderful. Thank you for the great questions. And we're gonna, I'm gonna give you your free gift. Yeah. This thing is coming off. Hang on 1 second. Okay, so you all know I love hot chocolate, and so I've decided to call this the hot chocolate one-to-one gift. Okay. Oh wait, another question's just come in. How do you discern which negative emotions are behind disease? Wonderful question. I love the question. Okay, thanks, Lucia. Is it Lucia or Lucia? Okay, either way. Sorry for saying it wrong. How do you discern? You don't discern the emotion, but you doing the exact steps that I've outlined over here. By feeling it, being present to it, going in the body and noticing where you feel it. You will then experience a sensation, which is the frequency, and that is all you need to be aware of. Because when you're aware of just that frequency that's in the body, so for instance, let's say, you might notice it in your solar plexus. And then as you're being present to it, you might notice that it moves up to your chest. So that becomes a different frequency, and it's moving because it's energy and it's just moving. So that as we become more and more aware of where it's going, it's changing frequencies. And ultimately what's happening is that you being present are in tune with this, and everything else around it. Let's put this here. Like, say for instance, think of it like clouds. Okay. Because you don't judge clouds, do you? Right? You don't judge it. So these are the sensations. So you're just staying present to the sensations. And the sensations, you're being present to them by being in this space of being present to what you're feeling, which is, imagine just looking up at the clouds, and you're just looking at the clouds, and one might be a different shape from the other, but ultimately they're just clouds. And then what happens is that the sun comes through and the clouds dissipate. So it's not that you're going in to go clear the clouds, like I'm going to go get the clouds out the way. You're actually being the sun to allow for that to dissipate the clouds. And by that, that means that you're actually allowing the frequency of your innate wisdom within you to be expressed and merge with the frequency of the clouds to allow for that to become one. Okay, that's a really important point there, because I've done this, in the past, where we're always looking at clearing stuff, but I don't have that anymore, because with quantum physics teaches us this, that if we can stay in that place of observation, which is here, we're actually allowing everything to merge with that, which is perfection of ourselves, of our uniqueness. Okay, hope that makes sense for you, Lucia. Another question, Adi. Would you say that trauma, whether ancestral or not, are the cause of disease? Yes, absolutely. I've seen it countless times. It's quite amazing to observe that, there is ancestral. Let me give you an example. There was a study done where they did, excuse me, with mice. And I think I mentioned this a few times, but what they found was that these mice, when they were shocked, as they were smelling the cherry blossom, they obviously had a repulsion to smelling cherry blossom. And so they found that the generations after, even though they'd never smelt the cherry blossom, when exposed to it, they had an anxiety response to it. Okay, so this is it's a great example to show that ancestral trauma can influence us, where they dis-ease in the sense of anything that's upsetting the HPA axis, okay? Because that is then going to result in inflammation and all of that. Great questions, you guys. Thank you. So, are we ready for the free gift? Because it's already time. Oh, here we go. Hang on a minute. Okay. There we go. I do entertain myself with things like this. All right. So the free gift is that I have 3 spaces open next week for conversations, for half-an-hour conversations with you. Whoever comes to me first, message me on what, let's draw this. So the conversation we're going to have is identifying what your fear is. So this is for you. What your fear is, how to identify it, and what tips you can take away on how to work with it. Okay? So that's my gift to you. So there's 3 people that I've got space for next week. It's only available, this is why I said for live viewers, if you can make it, because it'll be the first 3 people that get in touch with me. So only 3 people for next week, and that's only next week from Monday to Wednesday next week. I have spaces for that. So, this video is going to go onto YouTube as well. So anybody listening to the replay, this will probably have expired unless you listen to it today. And I haven't already had 3 people write to me. So either way, so I look forward to hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this, let me know. And if you have topics that you want me to discuss, let's come back here. Actually, let's do this. Yeah. If you have topics that you want me to discuss, and you have something that you really would love answered, then let me know. I'm happy to do this. I will do another Facebook Live, usually every month, and I'm happy to do that. So it was great and wonderful to be with you. Thank you for listening, and I really appreciate you being here, because it's great to interact, and I love doing that. And I look forward to speaking to the first 3 people that get in touch with me. Lots of love. Take care.